Yo! Video games.
What up, dudes, and welcome back to the YoVideogames podcast. I'm Matt.
And I'm Andrew.
And once again, thank you to all our generous patrons who've kept us going for over 350 episodes.
Yeah, if you're interested in becoming a patron at any level, please check out patreon.com/YoVideogames Dude of the week is M. Drenny.
Is it M. Drenny or MD Rennie?
It might be Dr. Rennie. Would that be Doctor? Would that be what it is? Medical Dr. Rennie? Could that be? Probably. I don't know. Probably not. I feel like if you're going to go with that way, you're not going to try and do medical. You just do doctor, right?
I have no idea.
Well, now's the time. Correct us, bro. I don't know.
Either way, thank you.
But thank you very much. And as always, we have a sponsor to thank. Now, granted, it's past Christmas, but it's still a good time of year to concern yourself with the ball health of your friends. So it's a good time of year to look at gifts, or a good time of year to start taking care of your own topiary. Of course, we're talking about Manscaped. And Manscaped's kind of the number one product for taking care of your balls. Your balls take care of you. You should take care of them.
Exactly, because, I mean, you want to ring in the new year right? You know, you don't want to be, old man with a big grizzled beard hanging down. You want to be smooth as, as a baby's butt cheek. So you want to be that young stud coming into the new year.
Yeah, you want to look like you have young balls.
Right. You don't want to look like the corpse of the Duck Dynasty franchise. So,
gee, those guys were billionaires because of that franchise or something. That upsets me. But anyway, we're going to tell you about a few of our favorite products that the Duck Dynasty guys didn't know about and thus probably had terrible swamp nuggets. Anyway, we're talking about the Lawnmower 4.0, kind of the flagship product from Manscaped.
Flagship, creme de la creme.
Yeah, you can use it wet or dry. Now, granted, I've never used it directly under the water in the shower, but I have used it in the shower, turned away from the water spray me, and it works wonderfully. It's got a light on it.
The light, it does make a big difference.
Light's good for the taint, for the gooch.
It really is.
You gotta get in there. And then we have another favorite, probably our most favorite product, the one we use the most, the Crop Preserver. It's ball
speaking
deodorant.
Of creme de la creme.
Quite literally the creme. Naturally, the story that we originally told and the reason why we said yes to the Manscaped sponsorship was that at my bachelor party, a friend of mine gave all of us a bottle of this as a gift. And another friend of mine, that's all he did. He didn't shower for the bachelor party, which we were hiking through Yosemite for the bachelor party. And then he went home and he got laid. And that worked out for him. The lady was quite happy with how he smelled. He played it all off. So powerful stuff is what we're getting at. Magical stuff. Maybe even the reason he got laid, right? She could smell. I don't know. But then, of course, the Boxers 2.0, which I am wearing right now.
Yeah, me too.
Comfortable. Super comfortable. And granted, it's never freezing cold here, but right now the temperature's dropped and I'm still nice and cozy. But mostly I like them because they keep the balls dry. Keep a lot of airflow.
I like it because it also doesn't feel like, you're getting like scrunched up either, because they are designed specifically for the ball sack in mind.
Oh, yeah. They put it in a little hammock.
So they have a little
balls can take a nap in that thing.
A little hammock.
But if you're interested in checking out any of these products or the myriad of other products that they have, like the crop mops, which are like a ball wipe for on the go. Say you're running around Disneyland. You got to stop off, walk into the bathroom, mop that shit up so you don't get swamp ass. That's kind of the perfect product for you. Head over to manscaped.com. Use our code YoVG, all caps, for 20% off and free shipping worldwide. That's code YoVG, all caps, at manscaped.com for 20% off and free shipping worldwide. Your balls will thank you.
I was going to mention, though, they actually have that razor, which has terrified me.
What? No, that thing's great.
Yeah, because, I mean, if you want to make your head, straight up just, if you want to make your nutsack look like, The Rock's head or Batista's head or something like.
I was going to say you're shaving the head. That's brave. I don't know why you'd have to.
No. But they have they sent us one.
Yeah, they're the ultra smooth package.
the ultra smooth, which was like, whew.
Yeah, no. My favorite thing about it is that the
It's just
container for the
intimidating.
blades. Yeah, the container for the blades lets everything dry out because it's got like holes to aerate everything. That's the worst thing if you get rusty blades. You don't want that
on your nuts.
So today we're talking about gaming niches or niches that they've kind of died out, but maybe they should come back. Maybe they shouldn't come back. Just I got kind of nostalgic.
I'm going to say almost the lost genres, if anything.
Yeah, I don't know. I say niches because it's not only genres that I want to talk about. Like one of the things that pop in my head, of course, we make jokes about the N-Gage all the time, but like a phone purposely built for mobile gaming.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like what would that look like today? And is there an opportunity for it if like the Switch isn't beefing up and somebody, I don't know who, Sony, say, you know, is Sony Ericsson even making phones still?
I think they do. I think they still have the Xperia Play line or something.
Yeah, so it's like, does somebody step up and make a phone built for better gaming? Is that even a niche anybody wants? Or like another one that you said is like, what happened to all the snowboarding games?
Yeah.
You know, why did Skate 3 never happen? Like, there's these niches of games.
3 did. I think 4 was the one that got announced and vanished, right?
Oh, I thought it was 3, but it might have been 4. That
could
be a good explanation as to why it vanished, though. People just weren't paying attention to it. But like, there's got to be all sorts of, you know, just sort of popular gaming things that went away. My favorite to talk about is like couch co-op. I think we're sort of, you know, with how good online gaming has become, I understand why couch co-op has disappeared, but I do still think there's a real market and a real desire for couch co-op.
Well, I think COVID really fucking murdered it, you know, for a while.
Yeah, that's true. That's fair.
So, but that's really that's only for the last couple of years.
Each other, you know?
Yeah, well, you know, you go by the last 2 years, and couch co-op. I mean, and the thing is I think there are champions for each of the most of these lost genres. I would say there's at least a couple champions. You know, maybe one for each, you know, genre, if you will.
Right.
I think there's some genres there's really no champion left. Like they're dead. And
well, what's a genre that's absolutely dead?
And then Toys to Life.
Toys to Life, you think is totally dead?
Oh fuck! I mean, it is dead. Well, it's interesting because like there's like the last 4 Amiibos coming out next year. Like earlier this month, Nintendo kind of quietly farted out a Twitter trailer for Sephiroth, Kazuya, and then Pyra/Mythra for Smash Brothers. Which really feels like an obligation more than like a major thing Nintendo's releasing and doing, because it's not even they're not even being used with like any specific games beyond Smash Brothers, right? Like the Sephiroth Amiibo means nothing to, especially Kazuya. There's no Tekken games on the Switch at all.
Right, you'd have to already be in love with Kazuya.
So so looking at Skylanders, Disney Infinity, Lego Universe, I think it was called.
Doesn't Roblox have a toy component?
No, it's all digital.
That's all digital. Well, I feel like there's like maybe I'm confusing it with Skylanders, but I thought there was like another popular online game. You know, they get sort of in the Minecraft age range.
Nothing that uses like a little NFC toy and you have to put it on a portal and activate it. The last one to do it was Starlink from Ubisoft, the game that had Star Fox in it. It had like the toy ships you could like, assemble, and then like they'd be like latched onto the top of your controller, all like janky looking.
So when you say Toys to Life, you mean something that has a toy component, a physical toy component.
Yeah.
Too, though. You're not just talking about like a genre of games where you're literally playing a toy that comes to life.
No.
What was that? No. What was that game on GameCube that was like fantastic? But you were basically playing toys that battled each other in like a horde. Yeah, and there was a co-op motion.
Not Battalion Wars, I don't think.
No, it was like Gotcha
Force.
Gotcha Force. God, I loved that game. I played the absolute shit out of that game. Yeah, I'm surprised that didn't have a Toys to Life component. To be honest,
here's the funny thing: is like that reminds me, Gotcha Force reminds me of basically General Gunpla, and Gunpla is Gundam Play shortened, which is basically anything that's assembling a model of a Gundam, and it's a whole fucking giant industry unto itself of Gundam model kits, right? We mostly just call them model kits, but like there's games that are focused on like the toys aspects of Gundam model kits and in kind of digitally assembling them and doing all kinds of shit with them. And here's a great, and I think if any game genre or if any franchise had a hope of having a successful Toys to Life thing again, it would be Gundam. Really? Something like that, like a gun, because they're kind of pushing their Gundam Overwatch clone right now, Gundam Evolution. Like that's kind of like their big thing they're kind of doing now.
And you think people would buy like statuettes of the Gundam they want to play?
I think they already do, but like people don't even really want. And the crazy thing is, you could just sell it completely disassembled and unpainted.
Oh, and then like the person and like paint,
make that part of the experience because that's what people do anyways. There's a game, it got announced, and I mean we're so far from this fucking fandom. I'm not I don't even remember what it was called, but the guys who make Subnautica, they're making a tabletop game, a digital virtual tabletop game.
Yeah, I actually think it looks really fucking cool.
Yeah, well, I'm so far removed from this, but I saw like the little trailer. I'm like, this is genius. Like the whole thing where like they give you figures and you have like this really, really intricate, detailed like digital painting. So like you can like, it's like Mario Paint on steroids, but like way bigger than that. Where
so
it's
you don't play any tabletop games really all that much, right? Like
last one I played was Hero Quest.
Okay.
At a friend's house, we did like a really like a starter campaign.
I did a Kickstarter campaign for like I think it was like Dungeons and Lasers, and it was just a big environment and character package. And they send you this huge box of all the parts that you paint yourself to build the environment for like tabletop campaigns.
Yeah.
And Dungeons and Dragons, and I haven't gotten to do the painting for it. But I think that's one thing that intrigued me about that tabletop to digital, switch is that like it'll let me do the painting without needing an entire room to set aside for painting,
right?
Which is the thing that's in my way now.
Which is kind of like against Toys to Life, because the whole point of Toys to Life is having physical objects that get like scanned, quote unquote, scanned into the game world.
But the opportunity's there with that game.
Yeah, right, and like with the game, I can't remember the name of the game, like the tabletop game by the Subnautica devs. That's all about like digitally giving yourself like a virtual workshop to work in rather than having it. But I think if you wanted to have a thing where you collected toys and brought them, put them, used them in game, I think Gundam is probably one of the best ways to go about that. Because here's the thing. I think one of the problems of Toys to Life is that the window of opportunity to have children interested in collecting toys is narrow. And I've said this before, like, and I have years and years of experience to go off of this. Kids kind of stop playing with toys around third grade, around 8 years old. Like most kids just stop playing with toys nowadays. They go and they're all into iPhones and Robloxes and iPads and tablets and Switches and stuff like that. They're pretty much,
they come back to it in their 20s and 30s. The toys,
right? So yeah, they do. But that's kind of my point is that there's some report like a fourth of all toy sales are from adults for adults.
Yeah.
And I think that's true. I think it might possibly even be greater. Because when you're talking like look at Skylanders, right? And Skylanders just kind of and Lego Dimensions, and it was Dimension, not Universe. Lego Dimensions, where it was like, they were kind of really big for about 3 years, and then they just fucking died immediately.
Hmm.
And I think of it like, okay, so a 6-year-old is collecting Skylanders or Disney Infinity or Lego Dimensions, and they collect them, and then they turn 7, and they're collecting them. They turn 8, and they kind of still collect them, and then they're kind of done. They either got too many, and more to the point, I think this is really what killed Toys to Life. The true thing that killed Toys to Life is cost. A kid,
They're usually expensive.
Kid doesn't have a job, and they're too expensive, and he can't keep up. And a child is completely at the mercy of when a parent, it feels, feels like taking them to I guess a department store, because toy stores don't really exist. But it's like they're completely at the whim of when they can go to a store, what they get for allowance, if the parent's willing to part with any sort of money for this. You can't really have a whole eco-structure or ecosystem built around like we're going to have like this wave of toys come out, and then in 2-3 months we're going to have the next wave and the next wave, and then there'll be a yearly new game release at $60 or $70 a pop or $100 if you get the portal or whatever. It's too much money.
Well, yeah, because that ecosystem doesn't work with actual kids.
No, it doesn't. Yeah, because kids don't have jobs.
Yeah,
they don't have control over their income. They don't have control over.
I have been saying for years that that's the biggest problem with not having child labor. Although, actually, side note, did you see that there is a tweet thread that was actually arguing that child labor is good, though?
I think I did hear something about that, where it's just kind of like
wild. It was a trip to see. I don't know what the fuck. But okay, Toys to Life, I guess. Do you want that to come back?
No, I don't give a shit about it. But
so what's a niche that you want?
The thing is, I have Amiibos, right? Most of them stay in their boxes and whatnot. Like,
well, because you're a collector, you don't really care about the game necessarily.
Yeah, exactly. Well, like I'm trying to say, I could have sworn I had one near me. I got, I have Banjo-Kazooie, right? Mm-hmm. And I got this because it's Banjo-Kazooie.
Right.
And they don't make a lot of Banjo merch. Like some people do or whatever, but like, it's just really cool. I just think it's neat.
Yeah.
Right. So, it's the only reason I have a Banjo-Kazooie amiibo, just because like how crazy, is that? How cool is that? But like, I don't have a ton of amiibos. I have like a Ganondorf, Shulk, Rosalina, Bayonetta. I have like a small handful, right? And I'm not interested in these for any of their, scan it into the game, right? Like I don't care about using this on Smash Brothers to build like an AI,
right?
With it. Like, I don't care about that at all. So for me, it's like, oh, do I care about this genre coming back? No. Do I think it ever could come back? Unlikely. But I think if it was going to come back, you got to go after adults, which means you can't make them look bad, because adults are way more discerning about, whether or not like, the mold on a toy looks good or not. You know what I mean? Like they're not going
to take it to a playground and let it just get beat to shit.
Exactly.
Right.
So again, that's kind of where I'm like, this, you want, if Toys to Life were to ever come back, I think something like Gundam is the way to go. Or surprisingly, it never went here. They had to have thought about it, right? Warhammer. Warhammer never had a Toys to Life game, and a game that never used like NFC, laced versions of Warhammer figures.
I have to imagine that something like that got thrown around somewhere.
Yeah.
But also, Warhammer is one of those things that I didn't know how popular Warhammer was until the last couple years. So I'm not sure, does Warhammer have that kind of penetration where they could launch something where they'd have to have a whole ecosystem specifically of toys? And
I think you'd have to be very careful about how it functions.
Right.
It would have to be pretty good quality. It would have to be a well thought out thing for Warhammer, to have. And that's probably something that gets a little tricky to do with the NFC readers and like the base of all any of these Amiibo figures or whatever, they are. And how would you make that actually fit and be variable and customizable and yada yada yada. So it's almost, I'm almost kind of shocked that that somehow before it blew up, the cryptocurrency didn't start using things like Amiibos, where it's like this is this has the data for your 1 Bitcoin on this thing or
Well, I
whatever.
know they have actual Bitcoins that
Right.
have a QR code on it that is your wallet. One side's your private and one side's your public. One's for taking payments, one's for giving payments and stuff, and it's just a QR code on either side of the coin. Like, you've never seen that image of the golden Bitcoin?
I have. I didn't. I just thought it was bullshit.
Yeah,
I
there's
mean, I guess it is bullshit, but
yeah, for different reasons. But yeah, that is a thing that people were walking around with in
yeah.
their pockets at one point.
But yeah, I think Toys to Life, just in general, though, like Warhammer or Gundam is the way to go. You got to go with a pretty much exclusively adult crowd that loves to collect. It has already been conditioned into collecting as a hobby.
Right. I wonder if there's a do you remember that game Chrome Hounds?
Yes.
And how you could like buy specific parts to put on your hound, I guess.
Yeah. Your mech.
And then build it and have all the like if you had a way that you could build your mech, you
Yeah.
buy the physical parts and build your mech, and then you can import it.
And that's what Starlink was going for. That was
That's
the
what it was
idea
trying
of
to do. Yeah,
Starlink.
that's right, because you build the ship
You
and
build
then
the ship,
right.
but it was just looked so. I don't know, the controller on me handy, but like it looks so clunky to take a controller, right? And then you have this giant ship. There's this big clip, and then there's this big plastic ship, and your hands are underneath this big giant ship that just hovers over and just adds just nothing but like weight and counterbalance to
not
your
great
control.
ergonomics, no.
And it's like, why would anyone want that? Just like have it like a little fucking portal. Like it was kind of a strange idea, because it came in so late to the Toy Select. It came after all the other things that kind of died off and then quickly died off itself. But like I did think the idea of like, okay, you put this part or this weapon or this piece on it, and it actually reflects real time in game the difference of it. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that seems really difficult to do, but actually impressive as hell.
And it does get into the question of like, how do you make that work? Where like let's say like the build of your ship, I wanted to have these specific missiles and these specific guns, and the only way in game I can get that to be on my ship is to have physically bought the toys of it and assembled it. Like you can't purchase it in game, right? So
yeah, which is probably going to just do nothing but piss people off.
That would probably piss people off. But then again, if that is the point of the game, maybe it is. But the other problem there becomes, well, hackers are going to walk right around that.
Well, that and it is the definition of pay to win.
Yeah.
Like if you can't afford a decked out ship,
or you can't find one, or you have to pay, you can't
Right.
afford scalper prices.
No, thank you. Yeah.
So it's just, it sounds cool for a minute, and then you think about it for 2 seconds longer,
and it gets upsetting.
And then it's like, oh yeah, this would actually be fucking horrible, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Okay, so what's another? Do you think a niche like Rock Band or Guitar Hero, is that going to swing back around?
Music rhythm games. I think COVID is kind of this, not the problem, because I mean COVID's the reason why there's definitely been no resurgence, because no one can come over and jam out with a whole bunch of different tiny plastic instruments, which is like the same problem with the couch co-op games. But I gotta tell you, Andrew, I fucking miss DDR.
You miss it?
I really miss DDR.
I never gave a fuck about DDR. Well, I liked some of the songs.
I think, I miss that the most. I miss being introduced to Eurobeat. And I don't know if that's just like a cell phone or whatever. I didn't know Eurobeat. I didn't know what it was until DDR came along, and I fuck it. I like it. I enjoyed it. It was catchy and it was upbeat, and I fucking liked it.
I sort of miss the I don't know, not like because they have like the Wii Fit, right, or the Ring Fit,
Ring Fit Adventure.
right, shit like that. But I miss like those party games that Wii Sports sort of filled that niche of.
Mhm.
I think it's why I got suckered into 1-2. I wasn't really suckered into it, but like 1-2 Switch, the promise of having like that party game and stuff. Like there was a time where like it seemed like every console had its own party game.
I still remember we were playing. Was it the Samurai Chop one? And then
And
Steve
fucking
fucking
Steve
throws
threw
through your Joy-Con.
and they tried to deny it.
He had this whole giant oh shit look on his face.
That's what the lanyard's for, Steve. Yeah. I missed that kind of game. I want that to have a comeback. But it does beg to quite like there's a lot of downsides to stuff like that. You remember like the platform that Wii Fit had, and like there wasn't there like a step. They had like a
Oh, the
step
balance board.
Yeah, the balance board that you could step on. You could use it all sorts of stuff. One downside that we never really thought about was like all the ways that shit could be used for weird, creepy stuff. These days, do you really want it to come back where they like measure or record all of your stats?
Well,
back
I remember
then
when
they weren't thinking about that, so they didn't
I
do
remember
it
when the
maybe, but-
Kinect came out, and
Oof.
somehow Max of all people came up with the idea of Connecta Sutra.
Oh God. Oh no.
The
Okay.
ultimate couples game.
Well, oh yeah, you want to talk even creepier? That balance board for the Wii. At one point, there was some like ultra Christian developer who wanted to make a way that you could interact with church remotely, so that you would kneel and like the priest would know you're kneeling because you kneel on the fucking thing. It gets weird. Shit like that gets real weird, right? So for people listening and not watching,
How
Matt's
is
brain
kneeling
is
in front of a
melting.
priest? Is my mind just too far gone where I'm just kind of sitting there thinking, like, isn't this just sort of like dry humping for blowjobs?
Well, no, but in like church, well, I don't know, in Catholic church, sometimes you kneel to pray for certain prayers
Like
and
the
stuff
priest
like
like
that.
comes up to you and is like, blah, 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 blah,
No, I mean the
blah,
priest stays at the fucking front. He doesn't walk up to you and
maybe now.
just touches your face and shit while you're just like kneeling.
Okay, I don't know.
Some frail old man who's just hoping you're gonna fall over into his
You
dick.
don't know that. He might have slipped a little blue pill in his communion pail there.
Okay, so we don't want that
There's the
shit to
blood
come
of
out.
Christ and the stamina.
Oh.
Hey man, he lasted like a whole half day up there on that cross before he finally died. They had to stab him with a spear. I'm
That's
going to
true.
hell for this episode.
Yeah, you are. I'm not even gonna help you, blasphemer. How dare you? All right, so
Hey man, it's called the spear of Longinus for a reason.
God damn it.
Put the long in it.
I don't know if there was any like devout Christians that were really hanging on, that hadn't given up on us yet. There it is. That's
Bro,
the end.
you and I are both like we went to church all our lives. Like
I
we
did.
grew up. You grew up in the one side of Christianity. I grew up on the other side. Like we threw rocks at each other. No, it's not that. But
I was doing wonderful Catholicism. I'm Irish Catholic too. That's a whole other level. I think the only
which means you're
people
really into anal. No, I'm sorry. What?
No, we're really into guilt.
Guilt. That's what it is.
I think the only people on the planet that come close to the Irish Catholics is like Mexican Catholics. I married a Mexican Catholic, so our kids are just gonna be all fucked up.
Are you kidding? You kids are gonna have the best smelling candles on the street.
That's true. That is true.
Positives.
other niches that disappeared that I Well, let's talk about when we want to come back.
Well, here's the thing, though. Good idea, but I also want to say I do want DDR to come back.
I mean, DDR hasn't gone anywhere.
And that's the thing; it really hasn't. Because the thing is, I don't want it to come back for the home. I don't really care about
It's
that.
just fucking arcades that have gone somewhere.
And they're at round ones.
Yeah,
I could go there.
yeah, you could go to Dave and Buster's. There's a DDR.
Dave and Buster's in round ones. They have them.
Although you're doing drinks and then you're like stomping around. That's you get.
No, you do the
vomiting.
drinks after. That's the.
Yeah, but no drunk person's walking past DDR and going like, I'll wait to drink until
Bro, we walked through like a somewhat new round one the other day, and they have all the Japanese imports, music rhythm imports. All these.
Well, where was this?
In LA. We went to go see Avatar. We stopped through. We walked through around one on the way to the theater. Yeah, like it was crazy. It was a whole giant section dedicated to all these imports of Japanese rhythm games of all kinds, including like the really cool ones that use Kinect, the ones that have the full dance, like the full touchscreen for your feet, the big one. That one's great. I love that one.
I've never seen that one in person.
Oh, that one's a trip. Yeah, it's good.
I've seen pictures of it, but I've never seen like because I know they have one for ballroom. I know there's a Japanese like ballroom where it's a touch screen that you're standing, and like you can do it with a partner too, where you have to do the steps and stuff. Yeah.
Oh.
It's you know how like the double sized DDR squares, like one person gets that size of a platform, so they're big machines. But I remember, what was the name of the web? There was a website that used to have like all that weird shit on it. Maybe it was Newgrounds that had like a section. Newgrounds forums had like
that. Sounds like something that would be there. But yeah. Ballroom dance simulator. That's awesome.
Oh yeah,
I love the sound of that.
Do you remember like this must have been the early 2000s when they had that like cop game where you stood on a pressure pad?
Police 91.
Right. So that pressure pad idea brought into shooters never made it to the US. But
yeah, because I think Police 911 was always an import.
Yeah, and you stayed totally you stayed stationary. It was all pressure pad leaning.
Yeah,
and stuff like that.
It was just.
When I describe it, I'm leaning back.
The thing is, you couldn't move your legs. You had to just like keep your feet planted, and you had to and you could duck and you could lean, but you couldn't like step off of it.
So they had versions of that where you had a much bigger pressure pad, so you could step out of the way, and like for boxing, they had like a boxing game.
Yes,
that was like that and stuff. I guess that's something that I do wish would make a big comeback is arcades, but I guess arcades never left. They evolved. Now it's all barcades. Dave and Buster's, your round ones. There's a lot of barcades in LA, but there's one barcade that's entirely devoted to retro arcade games. Like it literally had a joust machine in it, and there was nothing else in it. It was just joust in this machine. They have
this is a joust cabinet.
It was a joust,
not
cabinet.
a MAME cabinet, a joust cabinet.
And I think we went there for like a bachelor party. This is maybe it was
seems like a good place for a bachelor party, but yeah.
Yeah, it was. I think it was like classic. So they had like a classic Street Fighter 2 cabinet. They had you remember those old, like they looked like they were straight out of Space Mountain. It had like the big rollerball mouse, and then it had like the two buttons on either side. And it looks like it's got like that 80s or 70s, this is what space will look like vibe to it.
Yeah.
And I can't remember the fucking, it's like an iconic old arcade cabinet, but I can't remember the game that was in it.
Well, there's a number of games that use trackballs, like exactly like you're describing.
Yeah, I want to say maybe it was like a Galaga type game where it was like you use the trackball to like move back and forth on screen. But it had like that. It had several of the it's cocktail bars, like where two people could sit down in the bar area.
Right,
the table. All those Pac-Man table style I love that shit. Like that's the greatest idea for a barcade ever is where all of your bar seating are those game cabinets. Take quarters, drunk people just hanging out, talking, playing a game over drinks. Hell yeah. That's a smart idea. Although those cabinets are expensive as hell. So I don't think they're gonna make a
Yeah, they
comeback.
are.
You can spend a lot of money on it. I saw one for sale in the mall in our town, basically. At that, you remember that retro store that didn't last very long? There was like a
Oh yeah, is
retro
it finally
gaming store.
gone?
Yeah, that was gone after a couple months. They wanted like $85 or no, they wanted $200 for opened Banjo Kazooie.
Yeah, no.
And I was like, what the fuck? Who's gonna pay what? Um, but anyway, yeah, they had one for $1,700. And you're just like, why would this is insane.
That's
Someone's gonna
maybe
rebuild it.
maybe 1,000, but 17.
I I 1,000 still seems high. Like $500, I would sort of be like, okay, because
Well,
it
it
has
depends
4
on
games
oh,
on
it
it.
depends on the quality of the game.
Right. It was one of those original old school ones. So it was like a 70s era. Like it looked old as fuck. I mean, it had to be like 80s or 90s, but it looked like that 70s faux wood and then the clear plate glass over the
Yeah, well,
top
I
and
mean, the
shit.
thing is, it's like, oh, well, it's a table with a game machine in it. And I'm like, well, if you're just sticking a fucking tablet or like an old screen in there that's just running an emulator, like, no,
Yeah.
like I wouldn't pay much for it,
But if you got the original one that takes quarters and you can switch it to free play, hell yeah, that's cool as hell. I love that.
yeah.
I another gaming like genre that is gone, which we mentioned earlier, is like there's not a lot of extreme sports games left that
Yeah.
are at least none that I can think of that are like really good. Like your 1080 back in the day, I rented 1080 from the place across the street where I grew up. Like I must have rented that like at least once a week one summer.
1080.
Yeah, I could have bought the fucking game for how many times I rented it. Loved it.
Exactly.
Had such a great time.
Work your body to work your body.
Yeah.
Work your body. Do you remember the cabin song at the character select?
Yeah. Amazing. I don't know if there's still like an audience for games like that, but it
Snowboarding's
seems
a
like
weird one.
well,
right?
it's like with snowboarding and skate, right? Any skating game
Right.
with online, you can hang out doing that.
And I understand when Skate 4 is announced, they're like, look, we're announcing this as the ink is drawing on the green light. So, okay, I get it. But it still seemed to like vanish. And I will say there was the champion of Tony Hawk 1 and 2 remake.
That's true.
That happened.
Yeah,
And then
that's
they
true.
immediately got sent to work in the Blizzard mines.
Yes.
So,
And we will never hear from them ever again.
So yeah, it was like, and that one was kind of successful from what I understand, although it had the problem naturally of very streamer unfriendly.
Oh,
because
yeah, all the
they went and
music
they got as many musical licenses back as they could, including some of the most popular songs in there. There's a couple that they're missing, but it also made it like impossible to stream.
Yeah, I mean the music was a great part of the original
Was a
games.
but 1080 was like original music, so that's fine, right? Snowboarding games, some of them would have licensed music playing all throughout, right?
Mhm.
And then some of them didn't. And music, I don't feel was to snowboarding. I don't think like licensed music tracks was as integral as it was for skateboarding. Like part of the skateboarding gameplay experience is having skater music, for lack of a better term,
Right.
playing during it. The thing is that means not original music. That means they want to, it's the music you want to hear if licensed music tracks or whatever.
Well, skater music in the 90s and early 2000s was a lot of like grunge and punk rock and
a lot of punk and ska.
A lot of ska. Oh, bring it back, huh?
Yeah, I said bring it back, and you said no.
Ska's dead.
Ska had its day.
Back. The horns are dead. They'll never air again. But
how dare you?
Nowadays, I think a lot of like skater music nowadays, there'd be like a lot of rap, a lot of hip hop. I think there's still a lot of punk rock in there, but part of me feels like Twitch could the big streamers could do a general license with, the big, like if it was a Sony game, Sony could just use all Sony music
True.
and then just have the
If it
license
was,
so that
yeah, if it
streamers.
was first party. But here's the
Right.
funny thing: we should, and I've talked about having him on here before because we know, or at least I have, I know someone who used to work, for Sony Music. Sony, they could probably tell you. I don't want to put words in their mouth. I'm not saying they did say this. I'm saying they would probably confirm it, that the branch of Sony Music wouldn't have has like no communication with PlayStation. Like,
Really? There's nothing. There's no links.
not really. The left hand is unaware of what the right hand is doing. And I found this is actually true of other massive media corporations as well.
I guess, yeah, they're a conglomerate, so they don't have any kind of connection to each other.
Yeah, I don't want, again, I'm not putting words in. I'm not saying that is true. I'm just saying I probably would be. We got to have him on sometime if we ever want to talk about this subject more in depth. But
Yeah,
you're right.
We'll do an episode all about music and games.
Yeah,
Like music licensing and stuff. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you're right though, in a sense where it's like, what a great idea. Sony has a music label. Sony makes a first-party skating game. Sony can just use all the games under its label. But for some reason, from what I understand, is like getting those two sides to talk isn't actually, it's just as simple as you would think, where it's just kind of like, oh, we can just do this. Like it.
Well, isn't that what Sony did for Into the Spider-Verse? Like they just basically, that's all Sony music into that movie. I wonder if the movie,
think so.
Given how powerful Sony gaming is, you'd think they would have at least some influence in those other, in both movies and.
But you're right in a sense that it would be a good way to get around it. But on the other hand, this still doesn't really help the streamers. And that's kind of the problem, is like sports games like snowboarding and skating are based, what is the core crux of their gameplay? High scores, right?
Right.
Watching people go for high scores is the thing that would make those games huge. However, streamers would stay away from it if there wasn't like a dedicated streamer mode.
Yeah, where they could just play whatever music, or they had streaming safe music.
Yeah, so you have to be smart about this. And here's the thing. I think it absolutely 100% could be done. Because you brought up a point of like how, like, say, like modern day skating game probably have a lot more hip hop in rap, maybe, right? Well, who's a champion of streaming and is a fucking world renowned musician is T-Pain. T-Pain would absolutely go in and be like, hey, I'll make a bunch of music for the game. That's my music. And people will know it's me. And it's going to be for the game, so it'll be stream safe. So people can stream the game, and it's going to be me. Mostly me that they're hearing.
Yeah, that'd be super cool. I wonder if look, I don't know who's going to develop this in our dream world here, but
Microsoft, what if they ever get that Activision deal to go through, if Sony stops being whiny bitches about it?
No, now gamers don't want it to go through. I don't think it might be dead on DOA.
If it is DOA, and we'll have a long conversation about it, we need to take a good hard look, because the things that Sony is arguing is the most unfucking believably hypocritical shit ever.
Oh yeah.
And the fact that they're able to like stop a deal and lobby against a deal with that argument is scary.
Well, one of the counter arguments that I saw to that, and I don't want to get into it too much here, is apparently the argument that they're using sort of argues against platform specific gaming in general, consoles exclusive of any type.
Yeah, like Sony's arguing you can't do that because it takes away from players. I'm like, bro, you fucking did it to Final Fantasy. Like, they're such hypocrites.
Well, Microsoft basically called out Last of Us. They were just kind of like, you have one of the biggest games ever that's turning into one of the largest shows ever. So I guess you got to make that, that has to go on all platforms. It's like the argument of what can be console exclusive and what can't be, it gets super fucking murky really fast.
Yeah. Sony's argument is so fucking weak and so fucking trashy. I can't believe they're getting away with it, but that's how lobbying works, really.
Yeah, that's the point of it. Although it's sort of intense that Sony could lobby better than Microsoft.
That's
you know?
weird,
Right?
right?
Microsoft's got way more fuck you money.
Well, who did they piss off?
They made somebody mad, yeah.
Yeah, well, there was something that came out of it. Someone was telling me on my stream the other day where they're like, "Did you see what Microsoft said in their rebuttal?" Where so because somehow Nintendo got brought into the argument, about it, like brand names and whatever, and Microsoft has basically been arguing that they don't have a lot of strong first party brands, which they
Right.
don't. Sadly, they could have if they had nurtured them, but you had to deal with Phil Harrison and Don Matrick era. But anyways, Microsoft was saying Nintendo has world, like world renowned franchises, Mario, Zelda, Pokemon. And they said, and they brought out last year they had the worldwide successful, globally recognized, critically acclaimed game in Xenoblade franchise. And I'm like, and I was like, they were basically bragging up the fact that like Nintendo has all these fucking amazing, globally recognized, hugely successful phenoms like Xenoblade. I'm like, bro, no.
But also
like,
at the same time, it does seem like Nintendo and Xbox don't compete with each other and don't care about.
Yeah, and that's the thing is like one of the arguments has been like Microsoft has been saying like we want to bring Call of Duty to Nintendo. Like they're a third party now and they don't have Call of Duty on Switch. We'll buy them and we'll actually put Call of Duty on Switch, even though they'll become first party.
Right. I think one of the things though that people aren't real like it would make Microsoft far less money to make Call of Duty a console exclusive than what they're doing right now.
Yeah, and the thing is I was always like, well, the Warzone or whatever, they'll keep multi-plat, but like the yearly releases will absolutely become Xbox exclusives. I don't even know if that's true anymore. Because they've continuously offered more and more and more better deals to Sony to basically get them to like just go away, from arguing against this. And it's like Sony's getting such a fucking huge boon. Like, okay, we'll guarantee it for 10 years. You can put it on the PlayStation Premium service, all this shit, and like Sony's still fucking throwing a fit. It's like they're pretty much at this point, like they just don't want Microsoft to do good at this point. It's not even. They don't even.
Well, they want to make all the money.
Their argument isn't even longer about like, oh, we're going to lose money or people might jump ship. No, now their argument is literally, I just don't want them to succeed. Jim Ryan is just that petty fucking shithead in the yearbook whose literal year-end quote is, "It's not enough that I succeed; others should fail."
Bag of smashed assholes. All right, so we should end on a niche that we want to see make a comeback, a positive one. Do you got a positive one that you're like?
I do,
yeah, I
and I do have a positive one. I want to see a big budget 3D platformer come back, but a rare style one. It was like Crash 4 was kind of like the flash in the pan, where it was pretty well budgeted, Activision, but it's Crash Bandicoot, but it's very faithful to Crash Bandicoot. Crash Bandicoot is a corridor platformer, right? I'm talking like Banjo-Kazooie, like because it feels like every 5 years we'll get a 3D Mario that's pretty nice, and that's fucking it. And then you have other 3D
another one,
and you have other 3D platformers that are indie, maybe AA at best, usually not even that. I want to see something of the level of the budget of what the original Banjo-Kazooie was, where it was like we're throwing the full weight of one of our biggest studios behind it.
Yeah, I mean, I sort of I would like to see an expansion of that style game. I would like to sort of in the same vein, I'd like another mainline Ape Escape type game, or
Like
Sly
big
Cooper
budget
game. Yeah, something real. But I don't know if Sly Cooper would necessarily fall into the same vein of those games. But
I mean, I am forgetting about Ratchet and Clank. Don't get me wrong. That is another one of those like, okay, this is a champion of 3D platforming. Was the newest Ratchet and Clank game, because that was a full big budget first party game on PS5. Like, I don't want to say I forgot about that. It's great that it exists, but it's kind of it's an outlier, Like those are outliers.
Is Ratchet and Clank technically a platformer, or is it an action game?
It's a third-person shooter / platformer.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where I'm getting at, which is like, I don't want a a hybrid anymore. Which Sly Cooper is Metal Gear Solid mixed with a platformer, stealth based, action platformer. I don't want a third person shooter action platformer. I don't want a GTA
You just want a
platformer.
straight up
I just
platformer.
want a straight, high budget traditional platformer, 3D platformer, like a Mario Odyssey style thing, but not just Mario.
Okay.
That's what I would like to see. I would like to see a really big budget version of something like that. I think I just really want a Banjo-Kazooie 3. But with Microsoft money behind it.
I mean, that would be very cool. There's like a nostalgia to platformers for, say, like the N64 era, like the summer of platformers type thing, where I connect platformers in my head with summer vacation for some reason.
Yeah.
I sort of don't know why that is.
Banjo came out in summer.
That could be exactly what it is. I sort of want a comeback of, like, that Siphon Filter 3D shooter, like action.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if Siphon Filter would count as a AAA game, but more of like that AA.
I mean, it was a Sony first party project, so
right. It just didn't know. It never felt very polished.
No, and they did pump like 3 of them out very quickly.
They did, yeah. But in my head, I can only really remember details of Siphon Filter 1.
Mm-hmm. You mostly the taser.
Yeah, and the run. Everyone remembers the run.
Hip swaggering run.
It was like whoever animated the run had never seen a human run before.
They're like, this is their legs.
Huh. I also think like your Pilot Wings style games and shit like that, like it would be nice if games like that had a resurgence.
Yeah, that's actually a really good call, because like they have Microsoft Flight Sim, but it is a flight sim.
Right.
Like it's chill, but it's also technical as fuck, right? But just having a very simple Pilot Wings
style game. Yeah.
You don't have to worry about the intricacies of a dashboard on a plane.
I think it is sort of in that same vein of where, like, I want the rebirth of couch gaming. Like Pilot Wings, I think it did have like a 2-person mode split screen.
There was a couple, I think, on the N64, yeah.
But like the best part about Pilot Wings that I have memories of is like sitting on the floor in front of our TV and like switching off, seeing who could get the highest score in a level, and then moving on.
Yeah.
I think I want that couch experience to come back, and maybe it is like COVID starved the experience of that, the game night experience.
Yeah.
But I want more game night experiences in games.
Yeah, and you know what the best place to see some of that is on Game Pass, because I was not trolling, I was just scrolling through Game Pass, and I saw a game called You Suck at Parking. And it's a 4-player couch co-op game where you basically drive a car like Micro Machine style across some sort of little level, and you have to try to like stop it like perfectly in a parking spot at the end. Like wall of volcanoes like erupting and shifting the plates, and all this other chaos is happening around, and it's just try to like race, spin, stop, park.
Yeah, just like dumb couch co-op stuff. And like I like it online too, right? Your various I guess that's the draw of like Dead by Daylight. And
yeah, but man, you get a whole different experience when you're playing Overcooked.
Yeah,
with
when
people
you're in person
versus
stuff. It's just online. It's not the same. But I want that to come back. I think that's the thing that I would like to see get filled again. And I actually think there is a market for it. I think there is a market for party games and couch co-op games again.
We're getting too insular.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, the new Ninja Turtles is sort of a perfect example of it's still desired. It's still wanted.
Oh yeah, and I mean it had online, and online was great. But my God, playing that game,
good stuff.
Playing that game in a group is great, and yeah, that got a bunch of updates too, just the other day.
Yeah, I saw that. I do also think that with, that tabletop game, if they have like a back and forth, you remember Worms? Like
Yes.
Worms 3D and shit like that.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
I used to love those games, especially Worms 3D. I played the shit out of it on GameCube. Not the best Worms game ever made, but I played the shit out of it. Like that style of game, there's also something there for it again,
Mm-hmm.
because turn-based in person, that tabletop game could fill that void, where you could take that game with you,
Yeah.
and if somebody else has their own team file or whatever, like, yeah, playing it online is going to be cool too. I'm not saying that it would be better to play in person over online. I'm saying there's opportunity, and I have a desire to also be able to play that game in person on a couch,
Gotcha. Yeah.
you know. Um and I don't even know how much resources it takes to build a game to do that. Multiplayer seems like it would be harder to build than a co-op
I
mode
think
or a couch.
it's content. Like, how much of it is there?
Right.
I think how much are you putting into it, or how much do we have to figure out? You know, is probably what determines that or not. And yeah, it's also going to be, it's just a tricky thing because it's hard to gauge what sales will be for a couch co-op game, because a couch co-op game is a game that naturally by definition is a game for 4 people but is only purchased by one.
No, that's true. Yeah.
So I can see how, like, there's less appeal there from a major publisher standpoint, where they're like, no, man, you gotta make it online, and everyone's got to have their own copy of the game. Otherwise, what's the point? Why make $60 when we could make $240?
Fuck. It is a good argument, and I do
But
see
it's also like, how are you going to convince 4 people to drop full price for or even a $20 game? It's like, it's a lot to ask 4 people to go in on the same thing. So
it is, and it bums me out. But I just want my Worms experience, or like the some of my favorite times in like couch gameplay of like Mario Party. Those moments. You
yeah,
hate Mario Party, but
I
like
do.
that kind of stuff, the mini games and shit. Like I miss that. I want that to come back, and I think it could. It just like you know what it is. The first person to do a good one is going to spawn like a zillion of them. People get tired of it again. But the first person to do it again, ooh, be good, be real good.
Yeah.
But that does beg for a Twitter discussion or a Patreon discussion. What is either a gaming niche, say a genre, or some sort of paraphernalia? Like, part of me sort of misses Mad Catz stuff. Like, they're one of the best controllers on the original Xbox was a Mad Catz controller. Back when they only had the fatty controllers,
Yeah, the
Mad
awful
Catz
the
made
Duke.
a normal sized controller, and it had better parts in it. It had better like control sticks and stuff in it. Or like on the 360, there was a Mad Catz that had a better like button sensitivity, like on the actual face buttons and stuff, and it had a better D-pad. So a lot of people loved the 360 Mad Catz. Like, yes, a lot of Mad Catz shit was junk, but
Right,
I
yeah.
sort of miss that like Mad Catz accessory thing. I don't, I
Well, it's
guess
funny because, like, again, like, this is something that was a staple of the game industry.
it's just gone.
It's just like, it used to be, yeah, Mad Catz peripheral, snowboarding games, skating games. Like, these were the headlining things at E3. These were hugest booths. Some of the biggest stuff there was seeing this all, and that just doesn't exist anymore. Like, third-party controllers don't exist hardly anymore. Like a lot of these genres, like rhythm games, and sports game or extreme sports, Toys to Life, just gone.
Actual pocket gaming is sort of gone. Granted, that's because of cell phones, but part of me misses that. I miss the Game Boy Color era a little bit, or
Yeah,
Game Boy Advanced era, where you could
yeah,
like literally close it like a cell phone, put it in your pocket, carry it
yeah. A
around,
little
take it,
simple.
take it over to your friend's house, that kind of stuff. Like, I miss that a lot, and maybe that's another thing that like is where the party game could come back. in that like micro handheld, or
Yeah.
even maybe in your
Well,
phone.
I would say you should look in. It's not on the couch, but Jackbox Gaming.
Jackbox gaming is a lot of fun. Played at a lot of parties that I go to and stuff. Like, it is great. Quiplash, shit like that. Great.
Yeah, exactly.
I guess I'm just looking for more of that. Oh. But yeah, let us know what niche of gaming that has disappeared that you would like to see come back. Some people would say VR because it sure seems like VR is dead.
VR is struggling to. I think VR is struggling to find a casual audience.
Is there still VR porn? If there is, VR isn't dead yet.
I have no idea.
If there isn't, VR is on its way out. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, we're going off the VHS Betamax tape,
Yeah, but it's true though. It's true. Anyway, you can hit me up at Funk Machine, PhunkMachine on Twitter. You can hit up Matt on Twitter.
Doom assist me. Yeah.
And then on Twitch at Assist Me Doom.
Correct.
You're streaming some Warzone. You're streaming. So what all are you streaming right now? What's your streaming schedule like?
I mean, kind of gotten addicted to Vampire Survivors recently, so that's pretty good. I'm kind of going.
How close are you to finishing that? You were talking about that.
I have no idea. That game's an iceberg.
It's forever.
And I've kind of been. I've actually been enjoying High on Life.
Yeah. Okay.
Not even necessarily for the humor, but just because it's very smooth. The gameplay is very smooth.
Yeah, I heard it was simple, but it's well done.
Smooth gameplay. You've got grapple hook. It's shooting feels good. Controls go a long way, man.
Yeah, that's all you need, and then you get to listen to Justin Roiland ramble.
Yeah, but he's not the only one there, so that's kind of nice.
Yeah, fair.
Like one of the guns is the voice of Frank the Plant from Harley Quinn. So,
I love that voice.
Yeah,
that guy's great. As always, we've got some producers to thank. If you're interested in becoming a patron at any level, please check out patreon.com/YoVideogames podcast. Dude of the week was M. Drenny or MD Rennie. I'm sorry if we fucked that up, but thank you so much. And our producers for this episode are Scrunami, Kuroi35, Hyper Viper 89, Ziggy Z, and Online Persona. Thank you, dudes, and we will catch you next time.
Later, dudes.